Donald Trump's sexual assault accusations, Hillary Clinton's transcripts that reveal her true positions, and most importantly, Kim Kardashian's recovery after the gruesome break-in that occurred in Paris. These were the three headlines that dominated the news this past week, crowding out the comparatively unimportant news that a Navy destroyer in the Red Sea fired a barrage of cruise missiles at 3 radar sites controlled by rebel Houthis in Yemen. The Navy has described these strikes as a response to missiles launched by the Houthis towards the USS Mason, an American cruiser patrolling the Red Sea. But this retaliation is looking more and more like a tipping point in the escalation of U.S. involvement in the ongoing civil war in Yemen. To further complicate matters, the Houthis have denied they fired the missiles targeting the U.S. warship to begin with. But let's try to break it down. The Yemen civil war's starting point can be traced back to a political transition of power between Yemen's longtime authoritarian president Ali Abdullah Saleh, who was resigned after 33 years under pressure from 9 months of deadly Arab Spring protests. He passed down power to his deputy Mansour Hadi. But Hadi struggled to deal with the separatist movement led by forces loyal to Saleh and with the Houthi movement, which champions Yemen's Zaidi Shia population. Now, aside from that opposition, there were more problems in Yemen. It was already the poorest country in the Middle East, and these problems became unmanageable due to a range of issues, including frequent al-Qaeda attacks, long-standing corruption, persistent unemployment, and increasing food insecurity. The Houthis were also largely successful, and they even managed to imprison Hadi. In the end, they drove him out of the country, which is when the Saudi bombings began. In 2015, Hadi returned to the Yemeni port city of Aden after Saudi-backed government forces recaptured the city. But why would the Saudis want to get involved in another country's civil war in the first place? Well, ever since Saleh's resignation, the Saudi government has been attempting to influence the outcome of this struggle in favor of the internationally recognized Hadi movement. In an effort to gain more international support, the kingdom has also branded their efforts as a proxy war between the Shiites and Sunnis and against Iran. The Saudis claim that this is a war bred from the regional tensions between Sunnis and Shias competing for supremacy across the Middle East. Meanwhile, Iran's Shia government officially recognizes Hadi and has denied arming or supporting the Houthi movement. And even the most exhaustive studies have concluded that Iran's involvement has been minimal and limited to small arms in comparison to the US's more direct intervention, which already included a massive supply of arms to Saudi Arabia, but now, after this weekend's cruise missile attacks, has progressed to active participation in the conflict. Yet the US news media continue to all but ignore the Yemen civil war or relegate these stories to the back pages. But let's talk about the US for a second. How did the US get involved? Well, aside from the $110 billion worth of arms the Obama administration has sold to the Saudi Arabian government over the course of the past 8 years, not to mention another billion that was recently fast-tracked, the US has long been assisting the kingdom with intelligence and logistical support. This steady influx of arms shipment could be seen as part of an attempt to limit the Iran-backed Shia-controlled territories in the Middle East. But it's the most obvious goal for the US to keep Saudi Arabia, one of the US's most important allies in the region, happy. While this latest attack is one of the first instances of direct involvement, it is relatively proportional and reasonable compared to the heinous war crimes committed by Saudi forces that the US happily turns a blind eye to. Oh, also, the US has been steadily bombing positions al-Qaeda has held in parts of Yemen for some time now. But both ACAP and ISIS has increased its influence over certain parts of the country as a result of the power vacuum in Yemen. So our plan is backfiring tremendously on a strategic front as well. And the problem isn't just that this political power play isn't working. It's that the people of Yemen are dying directly as a result of the actions taken by our Saudi allies. While both the rebels and the regime have committed atrocities, according to a UN report, the Saudi-led coalition bombings has been responsible for the bulk of the killings, which have claimed the lives of more than 6,800 Yemenis. In 2015, there were 101 attacks just on schools and hospitals. The attacks have forced Doctors Without Borders to pull out from most positions within the country. This conflict and the accompanying blockade has also led to widespread famine. The UN's World Food Program estimates that there are currently 14 million food insecure people in Yemen. The blockade has left people without access to food, water, and medical supplies that they desperately need. There have also been sporadic cholera outbreaks, further devastating the civilian population. In total, almost 3 million people have been displaced. But my question is this: will a new presidential administration change the direction of US military interventionist foreign policy and start caring about the death of thousands, if not millions, of Arab civilians? Probably not. Hillary Clinton's track record as a war hawk and Donald Trump's multiple statements about bombing the hell out of ISIS and their families are reason enough for me to think will most likely continue the Obama administration's current policy of assisting the Saudi kingdom in committing war crimes. The only question is whether this latest cruise missile strike is just the first of many more to come, leading to deeper and more direct US involvement in the Yemen civil war. And thanks to news media's near blackout of the Yemeni civil war, we might not even ever find out. But at least we'll be fully briefed on whether Billy Bush keeps his job on the Today Show. I'm Hasan Piker, and this is The Breakdown.